On Saturday night, Samantha Bee hosted the much ballyhooed Not the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The dinner was retitled, of course, because President Trump wasn't enough of a rube to subject himself to 3 hours of barbs and put-downs by leftists who didn't vote for him and see him as a joke and disdain his voters. At the dinner, Bee trotted out in a white pantsuit looking like Kristen Chenoweth playing Hillary Clinton in an alternative reality version of the 2016 election. "Your job has never been harder," she gushed to the assembled members of the self-pleasuring press. "You expose injustice against the weak. You continue to fact-check the president as if he might someday get embarrassed. Tonight is for you." Shortly after this ode to the bravery of journalists who maintained total silence for 8 years of President Barack Obama's lies on Iran and healthcare, his Department of Justice targeting the Associated Press and Fox News, Bee appeared on CNN with Jake Tapper. There she explained of her nearly unwatchable mess of a show, Full Frontal, quote, "I do the show for me and for people like me, and I don't care how the rest of the world sees it, frankly. We birth it, and then the world receives it however they want to receive it." During the entirety of this statement, a smug grin was plastered across her face. Here is a basic rule of thumb. In order to be smug, you generally have to be unaware of your smugness. Bee fits the bill. So do the members of the White House press corps. There are plenty of questions about President Trump's administration, from his shifting promises to his knee-jerk reversals, from his policy vagaries to his staffing chaos. But instead of approaching the American people as potential friends to be convinced, smug leftists treat them as ignoramuses. There's no sincerity involved. Every critique of Trump supporters lumps them all together and then treats them as gum stuck to the bottom of the shoe of the Republic. Samantha Bee and company have the unmistakable air of the bullies from every high school and college comedy, preening self-obsessed rich kids who sneer at the losers who inhabit the hallways and plan pool parties and taunt the poor kids who can't afford anything better than a beat-up Pinto. The journalist Hollywood clique is like Greg Marmalade from Animal House, Rod from Breaking Away, Regina George from Mean Girls. They're smug, they're liberal, and that's what drives Trump's support. Trump knows this. That's why he skipped the Correspondents' Dinner and instead went to Pennsylvania, where he held a rally, hilariously declaring, quote, "A large group of Hollywood actors and Washington media are consoling each other in a hotel ballroom in our nation's capital right now. It was the best moment for Trump since his speech to a joint session of Congress." Trump may not be popular among the cool kids, but he's cool enough among them to win supporters in the swing states. If the cool kids don't cut it out, they'll get 8 years to mock him and be smug in their self-assurance that they know what the American people want better than the American people do. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Alrighty, so James Comey is on the Hill again. This guy just won't go away. The FBI director is back on the Hill now answering questions about the election cycle. Hillary Clinton is back too. The 2016 election cycle will never end. So if you loved it, congratulations. It's 2017, The Revenge. We'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Legacybox.com. So one of the big things that I talk about all the time is preserving your memories. Obviously, as you get older, those memories go into a box, they go in the garage, and there's nothing much that you can do with them anymore unless you go to Legacybox.com. What you do is you take all those old photos, you take all of that old video, all those old films, the stuff that your grandma left you, and you put it in a box and you send it to Legacybox, and they send you back everything on a DVD or a thumb drive so that you can use it and watch it and share it and relive it. It's a fantastic service. It's something I think is deeply important because as those memories disappear, you're losing a part of yourself. Legacybox prevents that from happening. So instead of your home movies just being stacked up in a closet somewhere, now you can actually look at them anytime you want because they're easy and convenient and you don't have to schlep boxes of crap out of your house if there's a fire. Legacybox.com they take care of everything. They provide updates at every step of the process. That's why 250,000 families have used them. So right now, if you go to legacybox.com/Ben, you get a 40% discount on your order. Legacybox.com/Ben. Fantastic service. Again, send all of your stuff to them. They send it back on tape. They put a barcode on every piece of material that you send to them so that you can track where it is in the process. Just a great company. Legacybox.com/Ben. Go ahead, check it out. 40% discount on your order. Okay, so the big news today is that James Comey is on the Hill. Now, as the precursor to this, I think we have to talk about Hillary Clinton's reappearance on the public scene. So Hillary is back, and this is a great thing for Republicans because particularly it's great for Trump. I'm not sure it's so great for Republicans as much as it's great for Trump. The reason I say it's great for Trump is because the less Trump does in office, the more important it is to talk about how terrible Hillary Clinton is because, again, you need to throw Trump in relief. If your basis for Trump doing a good job is he's not Hillary, then Hillary needs to be ever present in our mind. We need to constantly remember how terrible Hillary is, and then we think, oh God, at least it's not Hillary Clinton. Trump must be doing a fantastic job. So that's why Hillary being part of the public scene is really, really good for Trump. So Hillary came back yesterday, and she was doing a media appearance with Christiane Amanpour, who's just unwatchable and unlistenable. And in this media appearance, she said that she takes full responsibility and then proceeds to blame everybody up to and including James Comey, the head of the FBI.
Did we make mistakes? Of course we did. Did I make mistakes? Oh my gosh, yes, you know, you'll read my confession and my request for absolution. But the reason why I believe we lost were the intervening events in the last 10 days.
Okay, so basically I take full responsibility, except I take none of the responsibility. None of it was my fault. Now, was it her fault? Yes, the whole thing is her fault. The entire email controversy is her fault. If she weren't a paranoid nutso, she wouldn't have stuck all of this classified information on an email server that was private and not under government auspices and might have been hacked. And she certainly would not have allowed Huma Abedin to apparently send classified information to her husband's computer. Huma Abedin, of course, was her assistant, and she was sending emails to the computer of Anthony Weiner. Huma Abedin's husband, Anthony Weiner, of course, is a alleged child pornographer, or at least looking at child pornography or young teenagers. He's a really sick guy who has a bunch of problems, does Anthony Weiner, and his computer was apparently filled with classified material and messages from Hillary Clinton, including emails that Hillary Clinton had deleted before turning them over to the appropriate intelligence authorities. So, as you recall, on October 28th, just a few days before the election, 11 days before the election, James Comey sends a letter to the members of Congress updating them on the status of the investigation. If you recall, all the way back to July. In July, he says, we've done a full investigation of Hillary's email server, and while she's a criminal, she is not a criminal, and we should not prosecute her. That was basically Comey's announcement back in July. Now it comes to 11 days before the election, and James Comey sends a letter to Congress telling them, we haven't reopened the email investigation per se, but we have new information in the email investigation, and Anthony Weiner's computer is filled chock full to the top with a bunch of Hillary Clinton emails. We haven't had time to go through it yet. Now, this was pretty controversial because just a few days later, he comes out and he says, we went through all of it, nothing there of importance. So Democrats, I think, not wrongly, are very miffed by this. They say, okay, why are you updating Congress if you haven't even checked it out? You don't know if it's real yet. And then 5 days, 6 days, 7 days later, you come out and you say, oh, oops, by the way, I'm glad I updated you 8 days ago, but it turns out that none of it actually mattered, so back to my original statement, nothing bad happened here. If you were a Democrat, you'd be mad, too. If you're a Republican, obviously you're happy because, of course, it had an impact on Trump getting elected. It's still Hillary's fault. She shouldn't have engaged in all sorts of nefarious activity here. She should have been more careful with classified information. She shouldn't have planned to have a server and then put classified material on it, which is a purposeful exposure of America to foreign intelligence services. She should never have done any of those things, so it's Hillary's fault. But did Comey's letter have an impact? I think it would be hard to argue Comey's letter didn't have an impact. You see the polls. She dropped from outside the margin of error to inside the margin of error in the last few days of the election cycle. Hard to tell how much of that would have happened normally, but it's hard to imagine that the biggest story in America didn't have any impact on her electability. In any case, James Comey is testifying before Congress, and Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, she of the lively size, she decides that she's going to ask him about why he sent that famous October 28th letter, and here's James Comey's answer.
The investigative team that had finished the investigation in July, focused on Secretary Clinton's emails, asked to meet with me. So I met with them that morning, late morning, in my conference room, and they laid out for me what they could see from the metadata on this fella Anthony Weiner's laptop that had been seized in an unrelated case. What they could see from the metadata was that there were thousands of Secretary Clinton's emails on that device, including what they thought might be the missing emails from her first 3 months as Secretary of State. We never found any emails from her first 3 months. She was using a Verizon BlackBerry then, and that's obviously very important because if there was evidence that she was acting with bad intent, that's where it would be in the first 3 months.
But they weren't there.
Look, can I just finish my answer, Senator?
Yeah.
And so they came in and said, we can see thousands of emails from the Clinton email domain, including many, many, many from the Verizon Clinton domain, BlackBerry domain. They said, we think we got to get a search warrant to go get these. And the Department of Justice agreed we had to go get a search warrant. So I agreed. I authorized them to seek a search warrant, and then I faced a choice. And I've lived my entire career by the tradition that if you can possibly avoid it, you avoid any action in the run-up to an election that might have an impact, whether it's a dog catcher election or President of the United States. But I sat there that morning, and I could not see a door labeled no action here. I could see two doors, and they were both actions. One was labeled speak, the other was labeled conceal. Because here's how I thought about it. I'm not trying to talk you into this, but I want you to know my thinking. Having repeatedly told this Congress, we are done and there's nothing there, there's no case there, there's no case there, to restart in a hugely significant way, potentially finding the emails that would reflect on her intent from the beginning, and not speak about it would require an act of concealment, in my view. And so I stared at speak and conceal. Speak would be really bad. There's an election in 11 days. Lordy, that would be really bad. Concealing, in my view, would be catastrophic. Not just to the FBI, but well beyond. And honestly, as between really bad and catastrophic, I said to my team, we've got to walk into the world of really bad. I've got to tell Congress that we're restarting this, not in some frivolous way, in a hugely significant way. And the team also told me, we cannot finish this work before the election. And then they worked night after night after night, and they found thousands of new emails. They found classified information on Anthony Weiner. Somehow, her emails are being forwarded to Anthony Weiner, including classified information by her assistant, Huma Abedin. And so they found thousands of new emails, and then called me the Saturday night before the election and said, thanks to the wizardry of our technology, we've only had to personally read 6,000. We think we can finish tomorrow morning, Sunday. And so I met with them, and they said, we found a lot of new stuff. We did not find anything that changes our view of her intent. So we're in the same place we were in July. It hasn't changed our view. And I asked them lots of questions, and I said, okay, if that's where you are, then I also have to tell Congress that we're done. Look, this was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election. But honestly, it wouldn't change the decision. Everybody who disagrees with me has to come back to October 28th with me and stare at this and tell me what you would do. Would you speak or would you conceal?
So we can stop it here. So I'm about to say something deeply unpopular. James Comey is totally, utterly, completely full of crap. Okay, he's totally full of crap. I know there are people on the right saying this is super convincing. This is his logic. This is why he did it. He's an honest man. Okay, James Comey is totally full of crap. He was full of crap in July, he was full of crap in October, and he's full of crap now. I'll explain why. Okay, beginning in July, he was full of crap because he never should have announced all the reasons to indict Hillary Clinton and then made up his own legal standard. And he did. You talked about it at the time. He literally made up his own legal standard. There is no standard of intent in the law with regard to concealment and hiding and redirection of classified material. There is no intent requirement. He made up that standard out of whole cloth to exonerate Hillary Clinton. And Donald Trump, I mean, this is so bizarre now because this is the world we live in. Trump tweeted that yesterday. He tweeted yesterday that James Comey gave Hillary a free pass. Okay, well, you reappointed him to head of the FBI, dude. Like you said, you weren't going to fire him, so that's kind of weird. But in July, he was totally full of crap. Then, because he set this wrong legal standard, he then goes forward to October. And now it turns out that there's all sorts of new material. So he has two choices. He can shut the hell up until all the information is available to him, until he completes the investigation without regard for politics, or he can announce it to make up for his boo-boo, right? It's a make-up call. July was a boo-boo, and now he's got a make-up call in October. Here's the make-up call. Republicans have a field day. And he sends out this letter. And he openly said this at the time, like this new logic that he's saying, where he's saying, well, you know, I really felt the obligation to say something because it was either speak or conceal, and I didn't want to politicize this thing. He says that he at one point in this testimony, he actually says that somebody in his office said, you know, you're going to get Trump elected if you do this. And he said, well, I can't think about things like that. Well, clearly he was thinking about things like that back in July, and he was thinking about things like that in October, because literally 5 seconds later, he says, in that same testimony, he says, we expedited the review. Well, if you weren't worried about the politics of the situation, why are you expediting the review? Right? If all you're worried about is the truth coming out in good time, then number one, why are you announcing preliminary findings before you've even done the research? And two, why aren't you waiting until all the research is done? And three, why are you expediting the research so that it gets done before the election cycle? And four, why are you sending this letter that you sent to the FBI the same day that you sent the letter to Congress? Quote, of course we don't ordinarily tell Congress about ongoing investigations, but here I feel an obligation to do so, given that I testified repeatedly in recent months that our investigation was completed. I also think it would be misleading to the American people were we not to supplement the record. At the same time, however, given we don't know the significance of this newly discovered collection of emails, I don't want to create a misleading impression. In trying to strike that balance in a brief letter and in the middle of an election season, there is significant risk of being misunderstood, but I wanted you to hear directly from me about it. Yes, there is politics here, but the only politics that mattered to James Comey was not the politics of Trump versus Clinton. The only politics that mattered to James Comey was preserving his patina of legitimacy at the FBI and creating this perception that the FBI was above politics when, in fact, by doing all of this, he embroiled the FBI in more and more and more politics. That's what actually happened here. Okay, that's what actually happened here with James Comey. James Comey hedged his bet so he could keep his job. He started in July, exonerating Hillary where she should not have been exonerated. Then, to hedge his bets in October, he brought forward this information, and then he killed his own information like 8 days later after this whole thing went down. And that's the honest take on James Comey. And what you're going to hear today from the partisans on both sides, the left is going to say, James Comey is totally evil and wanted Trump to win. And on the right, you're going to hear, James Comey is wonderful. He's a saint. Of course he had to reveal this information. Here is the basic truth. It's Hillary's fault she lost. It's James Comey's fault that we all know about any of this stuff in the first place, because James Comey did not do the first thing FBI directors are told to do: shut your mouth until you have all the information. Okay, and here is the reality of the situation. Would I prefer that the information came out and Hillary did not get elected? Of course. Of course. Is James Comey simultaneously full of crap? Absolutely, James Comey is simultaneously full of crap. Okay, now I want to talk, I want to say thank you to our advertisers over at Trackr, and then I want to talk a little bit more about Hillary's grand return. Trackr.com, thetrackr.com, Trackr.com, no E, thetrackr.com, and use promo code Ben. And here's what the Trackr does. If you lose your stuff, if you lose your phone, if you lose your keys, if you lose your wallet, you stick this coin-sized device on your phone, on your keys, on your wallet, and it allows you to find those things. You use your cell phone to locate your keys. It rings basically from your cell phone to your keys and to your wallet, and that ensures that you never lose these things again. If you want not to lose your phone, then you can actually use your keys as a reverse tracking device. You take the device, and then you can actually reverse it back to your phone, and it'll ring through. So how often do you lose your phone and your phone is on silent and you can't find it? The Trackr allows you to actually override the no-ring device. It allows you to override this. It's been a godsend for me. I'm constantly the guy running out the door and looking for wallet, phone, keys, and losing one of them. And this makes it possible. The Trackr makes it possible for that not to happen for me. I don't have to spend 15 minutes looking for my stuff anymore. Thetrackr.com. And use promo code Ben. You get a free Trackr Bravo with any purchase. So you never have to worry about losing that stuff ever again. Find its location with a tap of a button. Thetrackr.com. Promo code Ben. It's a device that my wife uses. As I've said before, it saved our marriage because there's nothing that annoys both of us more than when we lose our objects and then we have to bother the spouse about it. Thetrackr.com, promo code Ben. Get a free Trackr Bravo with any purchase. Okay, so Hillary Clinton can't accept the fact that James Comey screwed things up, but she really can't accept the fact that she's the one who screwed things up, right? She can't deal with the fact that she is the one who blew it. And so she is still not taking responsibility. Instead, she's claiming that it's because of Americans being sexists or some such nonsense.
Do you think... Were you a victim of misogyny? And why do you think you lost the majority of the white female vote? The security moms, the people who want to be protected from the kinds of challenges you're talking about right now.
Right. Well, you know, the book's coming out in the fall.
But we're
just to give you a tiny little preview, yes, I do think it played a role. I think other things did as well. Every day that goes by, we learn more about some of the unprecedented interference, including from a foreign power whose leader is not a member of my fan club. And so I think it is real. It is very much a part of the landscape politically.
Okay, so it's obviously because we don't like women. Now, this ignores the fact, I do love this, is one of my favorite things of the election cycle. Somebody actually took the Clinton-Trump debate and they reversed the sexes. They had a woman read Trump's comments and then a man read Hillary's comments, and it turns out people liked Hillary even less when she was a man. So the idea that people just didn't vote for her because she's a woman is, of course, crap, but she now declares herself part of the resistance. She's going to help stop Donald Trump.
I spent decades learning about what it would take to move our country forward, including people who, you know, clearly didn't vote for me, to try to make sure that we dealt with a lot of these hard issues that are right around the corner, like robotics and artificial intelligence, and things that are really going to be upending the economy for the vast majority of Americans, to say nothing of the rest of the world. So, you know, I'm now back to being an activist citizen and part of the resistance.
And everybody's like, yeah! Okay, the worst thing that could happen to the resistance is Hillary Clinton to be a part of it. I mean, she does have the resistance of a particularly virulent strain of syphilis. But aside from that, there's nothing going on that would remotely suggest that she is going to help out the resistance in any way. She's trying to hijack a youth movement that she's just incapable of hijacking. And even people on her left are saying that she's totally full of it. But to talk about that, we're going to have to go over to dailywire.com, and you're going to have to become a subscriber. $8 a month gets you a subscription to dailywire.com. Plus, if you want an annual subscription, you get a free copy of the Arroyo fictional DVD. It's a movie set on the southern border, action western, all about ranchers trying to defend their land from drug cartels trying to use it as a thoroughfare. The Arroyo, Jeremy Boring's The Arroyo. Go check it out by getting an annual subscription. Plus, if you get a subscription right now, annual or otherwise, then you can be part of the mailbag tomorrow. And we will do a live mailbag tomorrow. We'll take your questions live on air, which of course makes your life markedly better in every possible way. dailywire.com, or if you just want to listen at iTunes or SoundCloud, we always appreciate if you subscribe over there and make sure that you leave us a review. We always appreciate that as well. We are the largest conservative podcast in the nation.